A word to the wise, we are an explicit podcast tackling content with adult themes as well as entering spoiler territory if you aren't caught up with us. This week is particularly grody with some sexual assault and otherwise. Without getting into it, there's your high-level warning. Hey there, this is Cross.
I am PJ.
And we are Words and Whiskey, a podcast for veteran and novice readers alike. We tackle fiction novels and love to talk about what we're drinking. You should think of us as your intoxicating weekly book club.
Crosland.
PJ.
I just consumed a little bit of LSD, so this is going to be a fun episode.
Oh, fuck. What do you mean?
I mean exactly that. As a spoiler for my back half beer, it's
yeah.
lavender, sunflowers, and dates.
You motherfucker. Yeah. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean you did LSD on the show? I don't think we can publish that. But this all makes sense. It all tracks now.
I've done drugs on the show before.
Yeah, but like
just one notable one that's legal here.
Oh man, I am so excited to get into this week's reading. PJ, today is our 5th episode on Before They're Hanged. This week we are covering Furious Through No Good for Each Other, which is a section of the book that I love. I'm so glad we get to talk about all these different components coming together today. So why don't you kick it off with our quick overview here?
Our quick overview brought to you by LSD.
Expediency.
West makes a meal out of a man's face, then commits regicide. Glocta is summoned back to Adjua and reluctantly agrees to bring Vatari with him. Logan and Pharaoh get separated. The Bloody Nine comes out to play, annihilating a very large crowd of Shenka, harrying them. Logan and Pharaoh then tenderly make love with zero hard feelings, holding on to this great disposition the next morning when they reunite with their crew.
Wow. All of that sounds not even in the least bit sarcastic, especially at the end.
The end sarcastic. The rest of it, I would argue, is perfectly valid and accurate.
True. What did you think of this week's reading?
All right. First, there are two very separate sections. There's the West and Glocta part, and then there's the rest of the chapter that is all Logan and Pharaoh.
Yeah,
which is
Logan, Giselle, and Pharaoh.
Yeah, and Giselle. But when it's Giselle, it's mostly when he's with Logan and Pharaoh as well. And he's interacting with them.
End.
Yeah, when they're waiting for them. There's a lot of violence, a lot of brutality. Yeah. I am consumed by that Bloody Nine chapter. That I loved it so much. It was so just insane. I don't know, man. Yeah. Very good is what I think of this week's reading.
Very good. I love Benito Ruins. I love it when the guy comes and he kills people.
By the way,
yeah, man.
Going back to the quick overview real quick. I had to look this up. I didn't realize that regicide also applied to princes.
Yeah, I always thought it was like the whole... So, here's the question. Does it apply to princesses? Because I assumed that it didn't matter the
applies
the
to
gender.
matriarchs. Or to...
Patriarchs?
Leaders. To royal leaders.
Okay, so it does apply to all. So, regicide would include...
Kings, queens, princes, princesses. Other holy, anointed leaders, whatever they might be called.
Okay. All right, cool. That's what I had assumed, but then I again assumed. I don't know that I ever had that answer.
Yeah. I had assumed that regicide was the killing of a king specifically. And so I what's the killing of a prince? And I was looking it up. I'm like, oh, that's also regicide.
Yeah. It's all the same thing. At that point, there's so few people that, get involved in those entanglements that we'll just use the same word. You kill one, you kill them all generally. So whole regicide. Yeah, that is, of course, our fun in first chapter that we're going to start off with. But before we get started here real quick, I just want to say we're recording this on a holiday. It's Memorial Day. And as such, I mean, it's like a vacation day, right? And we didn't want to work too hard. So the notes this week are courtesy predominantly from the First Law Wiki, of which, if you haven't checked it out and you've completed the series, and I mean the series, they do a phenomenal job with like chapter by chapter summaries, of which I've otherwise used as a resource a couple of times for clarification on things. Great way also to like go forward and reference things, which has been excellent for me. In addition, lovely pages, well-maintained little wiki resource. So I highly recommend it. It's well done across the board. So,
and if you want to see all of the talking points that we've got, you can just go to the page on this section. Probably, I haven't.
They are mostly and correctly stolen from a summary perspective. I have a lot of other things to say, but this is PJ gave a quick summary. I'm going to use their chapter summaries to basically work us through the same ideas with a lot more individual parts to talk about. But it's partially, again, because it's a holiday and I wanted to have some time off, so we're doing it. It's like holiday mode, words and whiskey today. So. I did not take time off on my cocktail, however.
You took a long time on your cocktail.
It was actually very involved comparatively. A lot of sitting around, but it involved in other ways. So cool. All right. With that, we'll start with Furious. The only chapter that I didn't steal this week. Actually, the first two. But starting off here, in a clearing atop a cliff, Colonel West huddles frozen with cold Jesus, why didn't I steal this? Frozen, cold, and otherwise under the weather at the very first rare break in Three Trees' relentless pace as they continue to climb to get to Burr. Pike points to the Northmen to indicate that some decision has been made on their end. Clearly, they're going to continue as they're kind of separated in these different groups and making these call-outs. We even mentioned that last week. West struggles over to the huddle, and Three Trees updates him, tells him that Dogman has spotted a dozen of Bethod scouts, that they then have also concluded that they are going to fight because they need those provisions that they have in order to continue to survive the climb and trek. West begs for them to leave Ladislaw as well because the prince can't be risked anyway. He'd only get the way. I think even the line that's used is something like it'd be better to have him like with a bag over his head trying to fight, or it'd effectively be like all of them fighting with a bag over their head to try to protect him. So either way, not a good look. And Three Trees reluctantly agrees to leave him with Cathil.
There's a great deal of irony in this whole fucking exchange. Especially like right after this, as they're leaving, Cathil and Ladislaw are kind of jibing back and forth a little bit, and West is wondering if he's making a mistake by leaving them alone together, assuming that Cathil will do something to Ladislaw. It's, in a horrible way, very delicious irony.
Yeah. In the classic Abercrombie way, like it is. Man, I was listening to a podcast earlier, actually. It was rare. I went back to Kingslingers to listen to them talk about Salem's Lot because they were kind of doing their granular read-through. And, they were having this conversation about the idea of, like, some of the reason that early stories that you listen to, read, see, otherwise are so impactful is because it's the first time you've seen a twist occur, right? The first time you've seen something happen. And that sets your expectation to be a certain way. And then when it's inverted, that's like generally a cool thing that like a good author will do, is not just subverting the expectation, but he's been playing with so many different tropes, common tropes of the series, that he has spun the knife in so many different ways that it's unpredictable. Joe himself has created an unpredictable situation, and that irony in a lot of ways is delightful, even though the content may be disturbing.
Right. Salem's Lot. Does Eminem reference the Salem's Lot, the Salem's Lot book in one of the main songs that he has, like one of his big ones? Won't grow old in Salem's Lot.
I'm sure,
or is it like an actual in Jerusalem's Lot? I think he says Jerusalem's Lot. No, he does say Salem's Lot. I only know this because they play the song at my gym.
Lose Yourself. Yeah,
in Lose Yourself. That's right.
Yeah, I cannot grow old in Salem's Lot. Huh. Baby mama drama, streaming too much, staying one spot another day, monotony has gotten to me to the point I'm like a snail. I've got to formulate a plot or another jail shot. Yeah. Mom, I love you, but this trailer's got to go. I cannot grow old in Salem's Lot. Interesting. Yes. The answer is yes. It's capitalized, and otherwise the entire internet has many Reddit threads breaking down what that means. And most people are like, It was a rhyme.
That's fair. It does rhyme.
Yeah.
And there is a trailer in Salem's Lot where bad shit happens.
Lots of bad shit. So yeah, I love the way that this chapter starts. I mean, the whole breakdown of communication, including him in here, is just wonderful. So we get to the actual plan, of course, with West and Three Trees, and they kind of get there broken up into different groups. West is assigned with Black Dow to sneak around the back of the scouts. The fear and cold is just becoming so overwhelming to West as they are preparing and sitting and waiting and huddling. Black Dow just absolutely cannot tolerate it. He slaps West, hits him again and again, just sort of out of the field to get him mad, to like get him like, get real angry, dude. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to pay attention and focus. And this is such an interesting angle on North Bend in general, but to drive that rage out there, I don't know. What was your feeling on the rage?
I mean, first of all, like, it's not just... It's not just that it's cold and he's like scared and tired of the cold. He's like up to his armpits in the river.
Yeah.
In the freezing cold river. Like he slips on a moss or on a like slippery rock and like falls down in the river. And to get like pulled up and then slapped a couple times to the point where his mouth is bleeding is just so fucking brutal. But just like the growling, use it. Man, invigorating. And it works.
It makes Dow interesting.
It does.
Yeah. Makes you question a little bit of Dow and just the Northmen in general. But yeah, invigorating for sure. So good. So good. Just then, of course, after he gives that use it growl, the signal is given and both of them are off like a shot. In the heat of the battle, a man grabs West and they grapple. He cuts down, I think, a couple as well as he's kind of going around, but unable to get free, West bites his attacker, taking off his nose, some part of his body.
I'm sure it's his nose.
Okay, all right. But the battle here is just violent and incredible and ridiculous. I mean, by all accounts, this is such a good one. Oh, man. And we get so many good ones this week.
Violent, incredible, and ridiculous kind of cover the rest of this section of the book. But this is a fucking blur as well. Like, this is a very fast battle scene for how violent and how, like, intense that it is. And I appreciate that. Just kind of having these scarce details compared to some of the other fight scenes that are a lot more, like, beat by beat, matches the pace and the intensity of this battle and just kind of the fervor that West is in the moment. Like it's so quick, cutting from the signal going to the fighting to the climax of the fighting to back at camp. How many pages is it? I only listened this week because we recorded 2 nights ago, so I've had 1 day of sitting with this section.
Yeah, it has not been as long. I want to say it's like 10 Kindle pages.
Really? Okay.
12.
Huh.
Not very long.
Is that like for the chapter or just the fight?
Oh, just the chapter. This is just that chapter.
Yeah. I think the fight's like...
That's what you wanted, right?
No, I just meant the whole fight only takes like a couple minutes at most of the audiobook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it feels pretty cleanly like the scene changes, I should say, in this happen at like, because I want to say it's like a half hour for this chapter, like 27 minutes. It's like 10 minutes, and then like 7 or whatever it is to like end the chapter, basically. Mm-hmm. Like it's quick, but that also includes like the slapping and everything else kind of in there.
Yeah. And what happens after the fight.
Yeah, right. Which, again... so good. So good. I love this. I forgot to mention, of course, that he has to go back and sell this to Ladislaw, and Ladislaw's like, bah, bah, bah. And you made mention of the joke, but I kind of like the little like feign fight that he puts up. I have been looking forward to this moment forever, PJ. I fucking hate Ladislaw. I don't want to pour one out to him, but I do want to.
No, I want to.
I guess I'm skipping ahead a little bit. I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Let's
get there. But we're drinking for his death.
Yeah. Yes,
as
we
are.
We are going to
drink
for the capital of it all.
Dance on his grave.
Yeah, no joke. I knew setting up that capital rule that it was short for this world, but I like, sometimes you got to throw the scent off.
I may have expanded it too much by saying it can be from anybody.
So, of course, this combat happens. It's incredible. It's violent. At the very end of it, someone's like, "Did you bite that guy?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think he took his nose off or whatever." And Dow chuckles and gives him a name, Furious. West is a named man now.
These Northmen are pretty good at giving like fitting names to people, aren't they?
Yeah.
I really like this name for West. I think it matches his character very, very well. And it's already spreading to some of the other Northerners by the end of this chapter. Like, Black Dow gives it to him. 3 trees. Does Dogman call him Furious also, or is it just the 2 of those?
I think it was just 3 trees. I don't think Dogman did.
But either way, it has been picked up by somebody else, which I think is a sign that it's effectively a naming that's happened. There aren't ceremonies or customs or anything as far as naming goes in the North, I'm sure. So, like, this, as far as I can tell, is as legitimate of a name as any of these other named men are.
Yeah. This appears to be the way that it goes, right? It's just something that you earn, and when it's earned, it's there. Everyone agrees on it. They say, yep, and good to go. There's no real need for extra explanation. It just is that way. And what a fun... fun name for West to have earned here. So yeah, it just reminded me, what in the last episode that we did, what was I calling Giselle? What was Giselle's name?
Maceface.
Yes, that's too good. I got
imagine them reuniting and they're like, yeah, I got named too. What's your name? Furious. What's yours? Maceface. Or the other, or like Broken Jaw, even like Broken Jaw actually is a good name. Like that actually,
it's a good name, but it's not like the like earning of it isn't very good. Maceface does immediately remind me of Taserface from Guardians of the Galaxy, like that whole bit. Taserface,
just intentionally bad.
So, suddenly remembering the prince, Colonel West sprints back to where they had left him. As they approach, West hears a woman scream. Of course, Cathil going off. That's not the right way of saying.
Oh no, that's an insane thing to say.
Like
she's running her mouth again.
I was thinking like an alarm, which is
she's over there making noises.
Jesus. Feel so bad. Fearing the worst, he charges into the clearing and finds Cathil being attacked by a man, her trousers down around her waist, of course, and sees this man kind of fumbling with his, grabs the man and finds it to be Ladislaw, of whom is in the process of assaulting her, caught before anything else was done beyond disrobing, but still, like, the violation is still a lot. His response of "sorry, I thought you'd be longer" makes my fucking blood boil every time. It's the same sort of excuses
every time he continues to talk and tries to.
She bit me and points and shows the fingertip.
Oh
and you're
my
like,
god!
Fucking what the fuck do you think?
I apologize for having a joke anywhere near the proximity of this scene, but I hadn't realized that Ladislaw was anywhere near capable of basically standing on his own in any respect.
Yeah.
It's so fucking disgusting, and he got less than he deserved.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I do really appreciate the way that it goes. Of course, West pushes him off the cliff, just like cold, calculating will. It is so well done, and I'm so appreciative of reading that scene through every time that part happens, because it's just like, it just is what it is, and that was the right thing to do. And regardless, he even reflects on it himself a little bit later to round out the chapter, but doesn't matter. He might be a murderer, but he did the right thing.
I couldn't be happier with the death of this character. Particularly leading up to it, West describing himself as sober and cold and headacheless leading up to
sure of himself,
just totally in the right, not acting out of emotion or out of control or anything like that. He is like, he has made a decision and he's following through with it, and that's just how it is, because fuck this guy, he deserves it.
Yeah. 10,000 people killed for hubris, attempted sexual assault after being proud of being engaged to a woman last week, like this princess, and like just believing that the world is his despite everything else, like just paints him to be the worst princeling, among the litter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Boy, oh boy. Fuck him.
The dancing on his grave.
Fuck. The dancing on his
whatever
grave.
Rock that actually killed him.
I fucking loved that he gets the smash and the squeal.
Mm-hmm. West had never seen anybody more dead. Or whatever the phrase was. Yeah. It was so good.
I was like, PJ is going to need to hear that. Otherwise, he is not going to believe it. Ladislaus' corpse lay drooped face down over the rocks far below. West's ragged coat spread out behind him, trousers around his ankles, one knee bent back the wrong way, a ring of dark blood spreading out across the stones around his broken head. Never had anyone looked more dead.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, man. And that just brings us to the end of this, of course, with Black Dow was also chasing after him while this was happening, but West got out in front of him. And West reflects, of course, at the very end here, the sunny Agriont, where loyalty and deference were given without question, where commoners did what their betters told them, where the killing of people was simply not the done thing. All this was very far away. Monster he might be, but out here in the frozen wilderness of Angland, the rules were different. Monsters were in the majority. Such a wonderful piece of prose. It also speaks a lot to like West's character more widely, I think. He does generally have a sunny disposition and tries to be decent, but in a lot of ways he's a soldier through and through, and he's failed multiple times in attempts to be decent. He decently does the right thing here, but it's still murder. That doesn't change the reality of the choice in a lot of ways. And the way that this chapter rounds out with, from Dow, well, that's the end of that, I reckon. You know what, Furious? I'm getting to like you, boy.
Oh, that was Dow. So
Three Trees is in like the middle in the combat.
Three Trees does in the middle. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, like
he turns and grins at him.
It's a little bit ironic that this comes from Black Dow after like last week's disgusting comments about Cathil specifically. I think though.
Thoughts and actions, though, right?
Yeah, there's thoughts and actions. Yeah. That's one thing, but also West has proven his commitment and his conviction, and it'll keep him respected and it'll keep Cathil safe. And I think, I hope that's the way that it goes. It seems to be the way that it'll go.
Yeah. Seems convicted to the work. So we'll see. It does beg some interesting questions. Do you have any other thoughts on West this week that you wanted to bring up? Anything on this chapter? Any forward-looking thoughts that you're thinking on your mind?
I was surprised that in the aftermath of Ladislaus' death, he didn't even consider, as far as I can recall, he didn't even consider the there goes the glory and the accolades that I'll receive for bringing Ladislaus back, which was like his primary driving factor for keeping Ladislaus alive, as far as I could tell. It doesn't even cross his mind, where he doesn't. I don't know that it was vocalize
glory, but it was the fact that if he didn't, he'd be branded a traitor, and he's kind of given that up. He's like, it's fine.
No, it was last week. He said there's still one way he can come out of this as an honorable man by bringing Marshal Burr, Prince Ladislaus, or something like that.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't call that glory.
Yeah,
right?
I couldn't think of the right term, but
yeah, all good. I was just like, glory. I don't know that. No. But yeah, you're totally right. That was his way of salvaging some status, not for himself, but just in general, salvaging something from this would be bringing Ladislaus back. But some people aren't worth bringing back,
and some people aren't worth running the country after they get back.
Right. Got to be realistic about these things.
Fuck yes, we do.
Fuck yes, we do. All right, cool. Well, moving on from West for the week then, in a kind of unique spin on a lot of the reading in this section, we then go to our last chapter of the week with Glokta, to the last man, and as such, also our last chapter in Dagosca for at least the foreseeable future. We open up with a letter from Salt to Glokta, recalling him back to the city and giving him a path to make it out in a small boat in the middle of the night so they can meet someone down shore. But he does order everyone else to stay and fight to the last man. After we read it, we find the person seeing it uniquely is Visbrook, of whom is absolutely flabbergasted by being required to stay behind and die for the Union. I feel personally like very sorry for Visbrook. This is kind of what he signed up for, of course. And Glokta offers some final and fatal advice that it'd be best that he is never captured by the Gurkish.
Yeah. This is a pretty damning letter.
Yeah. In a lot of ways.
Pretty demoralizing for somebody other than Glokta to read this, which they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which, I mean,
in a moment of transparency from Glokta.
Yeah, very much so. But I don't get his motivation in doing so. Like, I get that it's honorable and it's like a good thing to do, but he almost takes it as I don't think he's actually gloating, but he almost comes across as gloating when he's giving this advice and like talking about it, leaving and stuff.
I didn't find it as gloating so much as it was like, these are the roles that we signed up for. And like, if you like leave, you're kind of stuck in it's kind of like what he had mentioned before to him last week, right? Like, what, you want to flee and be treasonous, right? Like, that's not going to get us anywhere either. Like, what are you going to do? And so it's just sort of like the end of the line in a lot of ways.
Right.
Yeah. There's a line in some ways that Glokta says in the midst of this where Visbrook says something along the lines of, this isn't what I thought soldiering was going to be or how I die. And, Glokta retorts, I could say the same. What did Stolicus write? The recruiting sergeant sells dreams but delivers nightmares. And,
Jesus.
Oh boy. Yeah.
That's a great line.
It makes it tough. Makes it very clear, but very hard.
Mm-hmm. I know several military friends that have very different experiences, but this sort of sentiment has definitely been present in at least some of their experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, we're recording this on Memorial Day weekend, which is also one, by and large, that is a celebration of the troops and the support that they do and give.
We're recording this on Memorial Day.
On Memorial Day, no less. At the same time, this is a damning and often true indictment for a lot of folks. So after Visbrook strides out, we have our moment to say goodbye to Kadia as well. And I appreciate the immediate step that he takes into thanking Glokta for treating the natives of Dagosca like people with some measure of respect. It's a very nice turn from Kadia.
Yeah. Glokta's edge that I commented on last week kind of seems gone now, or at least not quite so sharp. I don't know what I was picking up on, but their rapport feels better in this instance. It feels fairly apparent that he and Kadia have a pretty great relationship, at least a great working relationship that's built on mutual respect of each other's duties and positions. Kadia understands that Glokta's actions leading through this entire sort of time spent in Dagosca were primarily to benefit the Union, but there were still positives for the natives that Glokta really didn't have to fight so hard for or push so hard for. Like, he did what he had to and he did what he was supposed to, but he also like made sure to kind of ensure their benefit more so than what other inquisitors or other superiors probably would have.
Yeah, I mean, very much more than Devus ever did, right? And on top of that, I think like even just the single move of emptying out the temple basically overnight was enough for Kadia to be absolutely, stricken by Glokta's action and faith and like being stuck in the way and being the person that he is just in general. Yeah, what a lovely little note to end on between the two of them. Finally, of our trio of characters in the room here, of people that had been on the council or around the council, we leave Koska, of whom I will certainly miss the most. It seems like he'll stick around the city until it doesn't make sense for him either. Koska remarks that he hates to lose a good employer here, of course, which is just a nice little, kind of salute send-off to Glokta.
How much money did Glokta give him? I really want to know.
It's a great question. Yeah.
Cheers to Koska. I hope we see him again
Cheers
sometime.
to Koska. Cheers to him, his bottle, and everything else. Yeah. From there, we head to Vitari, and what starts as a violent encounter for sure that almost leads to what feels like it could be the end for Glokta, turns into a pleading moment of desperation. Vitari makes the case desperately, like I said, that she needs to make it back to Adwa. And he agrees in the end to bring her back with him, in addition to his other practicals, perhaps having earned some modicum of respect in the long run from her. This is an interesting sort of turn. What do you make of the changes in the relationship between Vitari and Glokta at this point?
It's hard to say because he kind of makes this decision under duress a little bit. She's got him against a wall here. Like, he doesn't say anything, but he knows that if he snubs her now, it's entirely possible that she sends word to Salt outlining her suspicions of Ida. So it's hard to, in earnest, say that, or it's hard for me at least, in earnest, to say that he is growing any sort of soft spot for Vitari. But the way he interacts with her and the way that he talks to her and thinks and in general, seems like they're getting along pretty well and forging a fairly good relationship.
Yeah, a work relationship.
Well, yeah,
by and large, yeah.
I mean, she's starting to fall into this. Not that she's not at the same level, but she's starting to edge closer to that level of Severard and Frost and how he interacts with them and trusts them.
Yeah, she's got notes of that in her, so you're starting to see that relationship develop. Do you still think that she would swing for the Archlector or Glokta in a pinch after this?
She has nothing. She hasn't done anything damning, and the Archlector is the one that could, like, if she had to choose between the two of them, the Archlector is the one that can pull more strings for her. The way she's presenting herself, I think she'd go with Glokta, though. Because I think they have this shared understanding, a silent understanding of what happened to Ida and how they have handled things. But if things get sticky with Glokta, she has no strings attached right now. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
She's playing this. I am much more. I'm being very cautious around Vitari and whether or not I trust her in any sort of way. I don't think I do yet still, but I'm warming up to her a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I get that for sure. Glokta, again, by his own volition here, also says that he's a weak thing for crying women. This, I think, being the third time in the story, it's kind of a moment. What do you think?
It goes against his presented exterior, this tough guy, sort of emotionless, tortured, who cares who you are or what, like, if you're a traitor, you're a traitor and fuck you. But he has been proving himself a bit of a softie lately. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a little bit. And there's no part of her, rather no part of her, but we don't see Schickel again, so we assume she's dead?
I guess so.
Burned alive?
Do you think the fire job worked on the little teenager?
PJ, the question isn't whether or not I think the fire job worked on the little teenager. The question is whether or not you think the fire job worked on the little teenager that ate her mother.
Either way, it feels weird that it wasn't commented on. But I don't. obviously Glocta wasn't there. He told Frost and Severard to take care of it, and maybe they wouldn't comment on it. But that's a fucking horrifying thing to have to do, to burn a 14-year-old girl to death. But at the same time, if anything notable happened, namely her not dying to the fire, I think we would have heard about it. So it feels fairly safe to assume that she appeared to have died. This is me not taking a stance, but I'm going on the lack of anything. The fact that they don't really mention it at all tells me that it looked like things went according to plan. But
okay,
who knows what sort of gifts are wrapped up in this eater shit? Like, can she remanifest from ashes?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? Only the man himself, Joseph. I don't know that his first name's Joseph, but I don't know that.
Joseph Kalul. Joey Kalul.
Joseph Kalul Abercrombie. Yes. Joseph Kalua Abercrombie.
Oh man.
All right.
And his friend Timmy Mamoon.
Timmy Mamoon?
Mamoon?
Who's Timmy?
Mamoon?
Mamoon. Yeah.
Mamoon. I mean, it's another white guy name. I don't know.
I was making an allusion to Joe Abercrombie.
I know you.
At the very least, you could have gone for George R.R. Mamoon. You know,
that's way better.
Yeah, right. I thought you were going to go with an author at the very least. Oh no! All right. We then come to the end of our time in Dagosco with Glocta looking upon its flaming ruins, having failed to save the city at all, and reflecting as well as what he thinks what Eider said is correct. They were fighting to hold a dot on the map, and what was all the pain for in the end?
All for naught, basically.
Yeah. Why didn't we try to hold Helm's Deep? It didn't make any sense.
Yep. As cool as Dagosco was, I'm happy our vacation is over. I want to go home. I want to sleep in my own bed.
Oh, man. I totally agree with you, though. I just got over that because I was dog sitting for a week, and boy, oh boy, was I excited to sleep in my own bed last night.
Your own bed is just such a good place to sleep, man.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
True. Before we get to the very end of our time here, I love this quote, one of the quotes that rounds out this whole chapter. Thinking about the end of the city and thinking about the spires and everything else, the quote here is from Glocta's internal monologue saying, "The Emperor would have set about his purges just the same. Salt would have sent for me just as he has done. Little differences, hardly worth commenting on. What did Schickel say? Few indeed are those who get a choice."
Few indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, a very precious few. And it seems like even those that seem to have a choice, like Ida and like the ruling council and like the people in power, they're still bound. They're still tied to something.
What really is choice if you aren't the one making all of the calls?
Which, I mean,
yeah,
when you get real, like, right down to it, it's our brother God.
Brother God. It's the big... I wasn't even thinking like that. I just meant like everything is like they're just puzzle pieces for these dots on maps, right? Like there's something infinitesimally depressing about just being a small cog in this machine that, you know, moves with or without you and with or without regard to you, right?
Yeah. Makes me think of Crusader Kings.
Every time we read a fantasy series, PJ, you think of Crusader Kings.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's relevant, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, man. I appreciate that. All right.
I need to play Crusader Kings some more.
On Glocta's final chapter of the week.
I think that this is kind of setting himself up to thinking about being the one that gets to make the choices. And he, as we kind of see throughout this chapter, still has, like, when he's fighting with Vitari, he still has that money, at least a lot, like the box of gems. So he at least has $500,000 or 500,000 notes. Notes? Right?
Something like that.
Marks.
Yes. Marks.
But that's still lowercase, so I don't know what their like actual term is. But he still has a king's ransom and then some, which I hope he's going to leverage into becoming the man who gets to make his own choices. That seems to be what this is setting up, I think. I hope, for Glocta's case.
Yeah, man, I love this book. I really love all of them. I love this book for a lot of reasons, and I'm so excited to get the end of it, to get to the end of the trilogy so we can talk about them on the whole. But I adore the time in Dagosca for a lot of reasons. I think that, like you said, it is kind of a vacation away in a lot of different ways, but it is what changes Glocta from like a cool character without a ton of like points of inflection to make decisions into one of whom has been littered with choices, but then ultimately to have this sort of depressingly thrown back in his face is just like, the choices that you made didn't even really matter, buddy, but maybe you can make them matter in the future now that you feel what initiative feels like again. For the first time in a long time, he is leaving with a perverse sense of hope, I think, which is, good.
Which is something to get squashed if I know how these stories tend to go.
What, are cripples going to get squashed more? Like, is that what you're suggesting?
I mean anybody with hope.
Yes, quite. All right. With that, let's get into our next chapter here, Jewel of Cities. This is a lovely little chapter that I really appreciate front to back. There's so much beautiful prose in it. It's the final time that anything goes slow for the rest of the week in a lot of ways. I mean, I guess the final chapter has some slowness to it and a little bit of grunting and panting, but we aren't there yet. So
and lifting someone
we'll talk
up
about
by
it
his
when we
cock.
get there. Yeah. I just, as a side note, I'm only a little bit disappointed that you didn't read it this week, because on page that presentation is very funny looking. So a good thing at some point to.
I've got my book right here. I can look at it while we talk about it.
Sequence of one-line sequence words and phrases and noises that is just so funny on the page. Abercrombie does a great job acting it out. But anyway, getting back. my derailing joke aside. The splints on Gisele's legs and arms have finally been removed, and he's astride on his horse, able to ride once again, be someone mostly of use. He's still sore, but the small things make him happy. He continually reflects on all of these little things that he's joyous of. Our boy's life seems to be profoundly on an upswing in a lot of ways, in the way that he thinks about life and everything going forward. He even contemplates a simple life really wouldn't be so bad, to go back and reverse kind of his track and trajectory and just like marry life or marry Artie without like fame, money, power, anything. He'd be super happy with that. And that's an interesting reversal. It's great.
Yeah, that daydream, as you mentioned, is very, very nice. He brings it up himself within this section and like talks about it on his own. But to reiterate, in this relatively short amount of time, he's truly, truly made very large perspective changes. And we harp on this all the time. I talk about it all the time. Every time we talk about Giselle, is how much of a better person he is. But I think this is like the hockey stick moment on the graph of like time versus good person. Like him getting hit in the face with a mace started this like super sharp uptick in goodness for Giselle.
Yeah. Like it goes without saying that like this is an interesting comparison, but I think it fits for Giselle. But a lot of people are like, your first heartbreak or your first funeral or your first like major life event is like the thing that humbles you because the world is forever changed and rendered changed. And Giselle hasn't had that. And this is a truly humbling experience, being pushed near the edge of death to come to understand what he really wants and who he really is and could be and should be.
Yeah. Yeah. He hasn't had fuck all.
Yeah, fuck all for humbling, for sure. Not much in the way there, but it is a very nice change in a lot of ways. It is so starkly different to inhabit his perspective here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the ride is a somber one in silence, brought on by the desolation that they're surrounded by as they continue through the city. There are dead tree stumps jutting out from the earth along the roadside, as we also approach various statues and all of these other things. Baez explains that Juvens had planted these trees themselves, but then Glistrod's, when he sees the city, he felled them all to feed the furnaces of war and this engine of destruction, of which we get to see little peaks of later, which is also fun and interesting, as though the industry never stopped. They haven't rotted all these 1,000 years, because even rot is a kind of life, is something that he brings up here. And there is absolutely no life here. This is like a stark comparison in a lot of ways to Mordor to me, which like has semblances, right?
Well,
but this is like
there's
truly
the forest feeding the engines of war in a very similar way. I really love the depth of the specifics when it comes to the lack of life in this area. What's not touched upon, as far as I can recall, is how long our band can really linger here without something happening to them. How long does life have to spend in this area before it's no longer life?
Yeah. What point are they, what could happen to them in certain space? And yeah, that isn't something that's touched on necessarily, but it is incredible how somber and sad and like deeply, we're getting this happy perspective from Jazal, and his outside of him, nothing is happy. Everything is barren. This is all fucking brutal and just tough by all accounts. But yeah, man, Jazal just wants to be a good house husband,
Right.
He just wants to build furniture, do hard work, feel good. Yeah. Yeah.
It does feel good
stuff
to build furniture.
as a new furniture building man. That's funny and true. So soon they actually arrive at the gates of Alcus. Of course, we were outside of them a little bit beforehand, just kind of approaching the gates. But once they actually arrive at Alcus, Baez proclaims it the jewel of cities, and Pharaoh retorts very quickly, "I don't see it sparkling." To everyone else's perspective, it seems like it's a city made for giants. It's massive by all accounts of anything we've seen from any other perspective. There's great walls, there's colossal buildings, towering columns, spires everywhere. You can see why this was referred to as the Empire. Regardless, it is a city where nothing lives, no birds, no dogs, no people, a crumbling dark place, like looking into your own grave. I like that flourish, First Law Wiki. Good stuff. Before continuing, though, Baez tells them of a hill with a temple on the summit to the south of the city, the Saturnine Rock. If they're separated, they're going to rendezvous there, of course. Logan doesn't really like this in any way, shape, or form. Like, he's like, why would you even suggest that? Like, doing that in a dark and evil place like this just means it's going to fucking happen, you idiot. And Pharaoh asks Pharaoh to watch his back. Surprisingly, she agrees to do so, of course, because their relationship and bond has deepened significantly over the course of the last, couple months on the trail.
Right. Yeah, I think for that reason, it's not very surprising that she said yes to it. But it is what it is. I get that. Crossland, you and I have been enamored with and spending time with Dark Matter on Apple TV Plus.
Yes.
Yes. I couldn't help but think of the post-apocalyptic vestiges of Chicago that you get in episode 4 of that show. It felt so like parallel because I watched that today, or I watched that yesterday, I think. And I read through it yesterday and today. So having these two descriptions side by side was weirdly connected.
Alcus is Chicago. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, Juvens was pretty magical. He could have built a big old city. Too many bells, though, I think, here to,
a lot of bells.
give it. A lot of bells,
it's
apparently. Oh, no. The face at which PJ made when mentioning that. Oh, man. Yeah, Alkis is something else. It reminds me, like, it is quintessential fantasy, right? Like, Alkis is sort of the quintessential fantasy capital. It's huge. It reminds you of the capital city. Man, why can't I remember the name? In, like, Critical Role and The Legend of Vox Machina. It's evocative of that first season capital.
What the fuck? I don't remember.
My name thinks it starts with an E, but I'm like, failing.
Yeah, that sounds right. I don't remember.
And then I'm thinking Aor all of a sudden, and I'm like, well, that's not it. But kind of actually in a different way.
It's kind of Aor also, yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of Aor. And it has that sort of fallen element, that fallen vibe. So it's cool to get that in a lot of ways, to see, this kingdom of Avalon gone wrong in a big way, to lose, out on our Arthurian kingdom, or Camelot of sorts, to see that all destroyed. It's a lot. As they continue through the ruined city, Pharaoh thinks that she hears things and see things, of course. Baez kind of mocks her. I made the comment about the bell earlier.
God, he's such a dick in this scene. Yeah. He's such an asshole. He starts explaining it, but then just starts screaming, just yelling at the top of his voice, saying like, "Oh, it's just the bells. You should have heard him ringing." Oh, like just making the point that there's nobody here.
Arguments in the forum. Yeah.
But just slowly crescendoing into this scream at the top of his lungs. It was just so very funny, but it's such a dick.
Beyond patronizing. It is. I think it's also powerfully rendered because it does speak to, like, this is Baez coming home in a big way. Like, this is where he spent a lot of his life.
Formative years, for sure.
Yeah. Outside of the time that he was exiled in the Great Northern Library and then the time with Canadius, but for the most part, this is where most of his life was spent in the early days, at the very least. And that says something strong about sort of the way that these memories are attaching themselves and how disappointing it is to kind of see these things fall. There's just a lovely quote in here about the way that things.
Do we know how Baez and the other Magi age? Like, do they age normally until the age that they, like, are preserved in time within? Like, did he age to the age of, like, 60 and then just, like, stop aging and go forward? Or did he age very slowly like elves do? Like, is it like an elf thing, or is it like just normal aging until, like, he got mage enough to not age anymore?
That is a great question that I don't think that we have the answers to. Is it even just that the old, similar to elves, like you were kind of drawing the comparison to the old, just stay old, Yeah.
Do
they just stop,
Or like high level, like it's elves versus high level druids in D&D, where they, like, once they get to a certain level, they don't age very quickly anymore. But up until that point, they age normally, more or less.
It does ask a really interesting question about the Magi, and we don't have that answer. We just know all of them are, like, oldish, but not, they all seem to have stopped aging at some point. Yeah. Like, Yulway's old. Zacharias is old.
Yeah.
Zacharias has bird shoulder. Crazy, man.
Bird shoulder is a very unique, like, affliction.
Yeah, the birds on the shoulders. I can't believe I didn't bring this up last week. I know that we haven't even edited that, and I know that technically it was only 2 days ago. You played Warcraft 3 at my behest, right? My request.
I think we did talk about
some of it.
A little bit. We
talked about Medivh?
No, we talked about what I've been exposed to with Warcraft 3. Like, we've played, I played some Reforged, like, co-op campaign, but I think that's it.
Did we
Otherwise,
talk about this
like,
on Saturday?
we just played.
Is that what you're telling me? Did we talk about this on Saturday? Is that what you're saying? Did I hallucinate?
We talked about it in a different context, not talking about Medivh. We talked about my exposure to the Warcraft 3 campaign.
Man, that pizza brought me back to life afterwards when I had that slice of pizza. I was not real or corporeal. Man, I don't know in what context I brought this up, obviously, and I can't believe I forgot to mention this last week if I even did bring up Warcraft 3, because holy shit, my brain immediately jumps there with a lot of different segments of this, obviously, very clearly, but Zacharis reminds me of Medivh, of whom is the Warcraft 1 wizard, of whom causes a lot of the issues and problems, but he's got this raven cloak on that's like big and dramatic and turns himself into a bird, and in a lot of ways is the same sort of like mystical warning sort of figure in that story, and as such I think like mirrors Zacharis very well. Just picked him out and like reminds me of Medivh in a big way.
All right.
No, sorry, I didn't bring that up on Saturday.
No, I don't remember the context, but you definitely brought up Warcraft 3.
Yep, I must have. Oh man, so I have so many thoughts. This section is so good as we begin to walk through. We continue to get more history here. One of the things that I really love that happens is as they're approaching kind of the bridge, we see these like different emperors, of course, as well, that are along the way. That is compared to the King's Way. There's this lovely line that he says, emperors, hundreds of years of them. And Giselle kind of says quietly, like, just like the King's Way in Adwa. And Baez, again, ever the asshole, as you pointed out, says, where do you think I got the idea? And that leaves Giselle questioning everything.
I don't know if that comes across so assholic as the,
I think it's the
rest of it.
The like, like, where do you think I got it?
Yeah.
Like,
and if Giselle was not in awe of the rest of the scene, I think he would have like pondered that a little bit more. And I think that the text even says that like he didn't even take time to puzzle out that strange comment from Baez. So like it didn't really even register. But yeah, so Baez design to the King's Way is kind of what it's implying.
Mm-hmm. We finally do make it to the bridge, though, of course, of which is almost a miracle of a thing, as they begin to try to find a place to rest for the night, overnight, as they're going to have to wait to be able to travel. I love Longfoot's reaction to the bridge. He says, in all my wide travels in every city and nation under the bountiful sun, I have never seen such a wonder. How can a bridge be made from metal? And
this bridge, this fucking bridge, man, the description of this bridge has very heavily influenced my thoughts on the rest of this chapter, or at least the rest of this section. Yeah, I don't know. The way it's described, it feels like it's talking about a suspension bridge with like, it talks about a lot of wires. So like the idea of just like
it is Chicago,
world,
right?
And then the Golden Gate Bridge going across a river.
Yeah.
Just plopped into this world. It's very funny to me, but it's really getting my head kind of fucked up and turning a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it does beg a question of, in some ways, like what magic is and what like was making or master making. Like, is it really the sort of magical art form that it is, or was it really just like good engineering? Like, is this a thing of devilry, or was it actually just a bridge with a complicated schematic?
Well, I mean, the problem with it just being like a marvel of engineering is that it also has to be a marvel of production. Yeah.
Right.
Which is possible,
mm-hmm.
but would be a lot harder to conceal and to be lost in time.
Yeah. Yeah. There is this lovely quote here that I think also speaks to sort of a little bit of what you're talking about, but I really like it even as a comparison here. Baez says it, all the achievements of Juvens are laid waste, fallen, broken, forgotten, almost as though they had never been. But the works of the Master Maker are undiminished. They shine the brighter, if anything, for they shine in a darkened world. Who knows? Perhaps they will still stand whole and unmarked at the end of time, long after all of us are in our graves.
So I mean, I don't know if we want to draw comparisons, but this almost feels like the fantasy version of the burning of the Library of Alexandria. Like, just all of our information has been lost. Like, in this context that we've been talking about, like, if this is just marvels of engineering and construction and things, like, this is like all of that information, all that wealth of knowledge just having gone to waste, as if it could have been used by future people. And if it was just Juvens that had the ability to do it anyway, it would have been lost anyway whenever he perished, if he ever perished.
Yeah, at the hands of his brother, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So,
based on Baez's, you know.
Yeah.
Like, once again, Baez is still the fuck that is complaining about the death of Juvens, of whom he indirectly, like, inspired their conflict at the very least.
Yeah. I keep forgetting that, like, if this hadn't happened, Juvens could possibly still be alive, even though it's been several hundred years.
Yeah. That's not to say that, like,
it doesn't stick in my
Glystrod
brain.
didn't blast Alcus, you know, to pieces, right? Which is what we also know. And that happened after Juvens and Canadius' conflict happens after, you know, Glystrod's. But yeah. Oh man. Just what a chapter. There's so many, like, lovely comments that happen in here as well about, like, age and things lasting and, like, how long things will last. But we do get to a core component that we haven't really talked about in the story a whole lot. It's been mentioned. There's a chapter titled after it in the first book. It's been lingering over us the whole time, like the One Ring in a way. And that is the seed of which we are going to a location to retrieve and to carry back. And we get the importance of Pharaoh and sort of the seed and what it is that it did, where it came from, that Glystrod dug it from the earth, that's material from the other side left behind from when Eus casted demons into the world. It's a weapon that he turned on his brothers and did all of this to Alcus that blasted it into the runes that we see. You know, it's pointed out, of course, that only Pharaoh can carry the seed because she's a double blood, directly descended from demons. And tough thing the seed is.
So I don't know if it's just because, like, in this section, I'm still thinking about the bridge. But between the story of what happened to the guy that was carrying the seed initially, like how he, like, withered up and died, and the symptoms of what happened to, like, everybody else in the vicinity, withering and losing their hair, the fact that this, pardon me, radiates from a central area and causing an effect on the land. Yeah, I mean, it points me to, like, just a big fucking chunk of radioactive material. There's obviously more to it than that, with the requirement of devil's blood to be able to hold it and things like that. But, like, I'm just, my brain's on track of, like, thinking of modern objects getting plopped into this world, like very, very powerful, refined radioactive material,
fissile material.
Yeah.
It does kind of beg that, I think, by description, right? And we do, for the record, I know that I've been playing up particularly this chapter, because a lot of these marvels are almost normal seeming, you know, to us outside of, but, like, context is important, of course, and otherwise. But just as a casual reminder, we do know that magic, this is more for the audience than you, but magic is real.
Yeah.
And we're acknowledging this just so that you don't call us crazy later in comments. Magic is real. The House of the Master Maker is crazy. It seems like it's out of a fucking fantasy novel.
Camera tricks.
But it's, yeah, just mirrors. It's just mirrors.
DGI.
And obviously, Baez blows shit up all the time. He doesn't have a flamethrower, like, in his, you know, in his robes or anything. Matter of fact, he's not really wearing robes. He's wearing, like, a butcher's bib still around. Like,
and that's it.
He's got kind of a normal outfit.
He's Winnie the Pooh in it. With a butcher's bib.
Oh, man. So good.
A butcher's apron. Long old man balls dangling out underneath it.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Yeah, and this chapter, of course, ends with a moment of suspicion of the night. You know, Pharaoh even reflects on using it to turn Gurkle into a wasteland, to do that, to get a revenge in some ways. But
Baez is pretty fucking clear that that's what he intends Pharaoh to use it for. He all but says it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, we're gonna go
Hot enough
fuck
to
that
turn
place
all
up.
Gurkle to a desert.
Actually, he says it. He does say it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He literally says it.
He says it out loud. Like, yeah, we're gonna go nuke Gurkle.
Yeah. And the counter of that is he says, of course, but only I can make it burn hot enough to turn all Gurkle to a desert. So, and that's what he uses to convince her. Like,
we still don't know where the spirit talking comes into play. Maybe it's to find the specific location. Like they can find the area, but they need Logan to really pinpoint it. That's my guess right now.
Okay. Where it's out on the top of your mind. Anything else as they try to go to bed in the darkness that leaves them uncomfortable with the goblins lurking about?
Gerblins.
Oh, no. Shenka.
Yeah, Baez is just such a dick. That's all that I'm thinking about.
Fair. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, with that, PJ, let's go into our drink segment here. What are you having tonight?
So, I made some orgeat. And I was trying to think of something fun to do with that other than the traditional Mai Tai that I generally make with orgeat and is the reason why I made it. I picked up rum and I picked up limes and I picked up almond milk, but I didn't want another tiki drink. So I went with a Trinidad Sour, which we've had on the show before, but I don't think we've had it since we've started this series. And maybe I'm wrong, but so sorry if I'm going through this again.
I think you're right.
Notably, weird drink in that it uses 1.5 ounces of Angostura bitters as the base spirit. A lot of people don't realize that bitters is alcoholic. Mm-hmm. It is 40 proof. It is spirit strength as far as material goes. So 1.5 ounces of Ango, 0.5 ounce. I didn't have any rye, so I used
You
bourbon.
Can also... For people who are thinking about Angostura, you can also buy it in bulk bottles as opposed to the little tiny ones that you get in the grocery store. The reason they put them in the dashers bottles for you. What's up?
I think they come in pint bottles. I don't know if they come in anything bigger than that. So it's 16 ounce bottles.
I thought they came in 7.5s, but...
Oh, maybe. I haven't seen them. I've never seen that.
The reason I said that is just because of how to drink, but that might be... I think that's a 7.5. It's an odd size for sure.
I'll get into a story about Angostura bitters in a little bit. So I used bourbon. I used Larceny bourbon because I don't have any rye right now. 0.5 ounce of that. 1 ounce of orgeat and 0.75 ounce of lemon juice, all shaken and served up with a lemon twist. And it is such a beautiful cocktail. We've talked about it before, but bitters and absinthe have diminishing returns as far as intensity goes as you add more to a drink. So it doesn't taste like you put 700 dashes of Angostura bitters into the drink instead of 2. It really starts to mellow. You hit a critical amount of Angostura as far as the bitterness and intensity of the flavor goes, and it almost starts to mellow out. It's such a cool drink. I really, really love it. I think you and I share that in that we both really love that drink.
Sour. It's one of my favorite sours, period. It's so unique. It's so herbal. To me, it is one of my favorite fall Christmassy cocktails, just because of that herbaceousness. A little bit of nutmeg on top sometimes, even just for that
could
extra
be good.
Little.
It could be really good.
Yeah. I made it more than once on the show. I mean, I think the most recent time that I made it was not on the show, but the most recent one that I had, I think, was in January. So, yeah, love it.
Cool.
What's your back half?
Well, first of all, I want to go over the history of Angostura as a...
Do it. Also, 16 ounces. That is what they sell it in conventionally for most people. They also... Angostura also sells other Ango products, so keep in mind you are still looking for
they
bitters.
do an Angostura Amaro or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's very good.
But it's not the same.
Correct.
Yeah. but there is a bar in eastern Wisconsin on that like little like peninsula that like past Door County. I think it might technically be in Door County, but that peninsula into Lake Michigan. There's a little bar that still operated as a bar through Prohibition by selling shots of Angostura as medicine to patrons. And you can get like a passport, a little passport card of taking a shot of Angostura at that bar still to this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the city or the bar itself. It's a very, very easy Google search away, but my keyboard's super clacky, so I'm not going to do that right now. But
I understand.
That's already teased my back half beer at the beginning of the show. I'm drinking LSD from Indeed Brewing Company. I actually had this beer at this brewery during my bachelor party, and I think I bought you one as well.
For sure.
It is lavender, sunflower honey, and dates. It is such a cool beer. Like it's a little bit on the sweet side, but it's mostly like a flavored lager is how it drinks. It's an ale. It's a honey wheat ale, basically. I don't know if there's wheat. Yeah, it doesn't really specify on the can, but it's a sweeter, very easy drinking. It's so different from like fruited beers or like herbal beers or like herbal drinks in general. Like it's not herby. It's a little bit nutty. There's the sweetness from the dates and the honey. The sunflower still comes through, even though it's sunflower honey, which is really, really impressive and kind of intense. Yeah, highly, highly recommend it. It is divisive. I'm on several like beer forums and like local beer like pages and things, and it is a hotly contested beer. Like people either love it or they really, really hate it, but I am definitely in the love it camp.
Yeah, I really liked it. They also had what was it?
Mexican honey?
Had the Mexican honey version, right? Like they had
that's become more of one of their flagships, but it's Mexican honey is like just one of their mainstay beers.
But they had a secondary version of LSD there. Oh no! They had one LSD and they had two of the Mexican honeys.
They do Mexican honey and Mexican honey light. Yeah.
LSD anyway was very good. Mexican honey I did prefer personally, but it is a very unique beer. And the Mexican honey is just great. Like it's incredible. Yeah. I prefer the Imperial, but yeah.
And that was the original. But it's like 7.5% or something like that. So they came out with a version that's like 5.
Yeah. Drinkable for most people more often. Cool.
All right, Crossland, you've got some intense shit to break down. And you've got just one drink. So take your time, relish in it. Give us everything.
I maybe made the most complicated cocktail that I've made on the show in a while, to say the least. That said, it's not that fucking complicated. That was kind of the point, is I wanted to take like a thing, that is multi-step and that has kind of been not something we've done on the show ever. And those are always kind of fun experiments to try. Like, we did some of those egg creams earlier on in like some of the Mistborn episodes. Or actually, I think that was even that was like Dark Age. I think that we did the egg cream. But so we've tried a lot of things. One thing that we've never messed with is fat washing, which is an interesting process that you can do to cocktails. Generally speaking, it's done with a variety of different fats. I made the cocktail that I made today with coconut. So it's vegan, it's approachable, vegetarian, whatever. It's something that anyone can do and kind of just add a different flair on, a lot of different kind of traditional cocktails. You can fat wash all kinds of things. Some people do it with their core spirits. Some are cocktails. If you've ever heard of a milk punch before, we found out that there are 2 varieties of milk punch, but often milk punch is clarified to remove everything that's curdled on top. That's of the same sort of family of cocktail that you like basically are getting rid of and filtering out anything and everything that curdled near it, similar to the way, that milk is made to begin with. So what I did today is I made a jungle bird and clarified it with coconut. So it's a coconut washed jungle bird. For those of you at home who don't know what a jungle bird is, it's 1.5 ounces of rum, 3/4 ounces of Campari, 1/2 ounce of lime juice, 1/2 ounce of Angostura, or not Angostura, 1/2 ounce of simple syrup, Demerara simple syrup. And 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice. So very nice, tropical, refreshing cocktail. One of the favorites of our friend Mathar. They absolutely adore the cocktail. And I was playing around with a couple of different ideas of drinks that I wanted to do. I settled on the Jungle Bird. It's this tiki drink. It is, after going through the fat clarification process, you basically take what is otherwise a red brownish cocktail and you turn it very pale, which is super cool. It extracts a lot of the color out of it to reduce it in this fun way. So all you have to do to fat wash anything, start with coconut, start with something that isn't actually like, I don't want to say food dangerous because you should be using treated fats in the first place, so you don't have to worry about that. But coconut washing, very easy. Basically, what you want to do is you want to use 1/4 of the volume of the amount of cocktail that you're using or making. And you can make these in batches because they're shelf stable as well as part of the whole thing. But you want to use 1/4 of the volume. So I made 4 times volume. So four cocktails because I wanted in part to test one separately and otherwise, but did a 4 times recipe. So about a cup worth of coconut cream, not milk, because the milk takes forever to separate versus cream actually is easier. So recommend that as a change. Thank you, Educated Barfly, for that little tip. And yeah, dude, it's fucking delicious. So I guess I didn't go into the process of what you actually have to do. You put all the ingredients together, you stir them all up, without the coconut cream, like you're making the regular cocktail. You don't need to shake it necessarily because it'll agitate as you go through this process and incorporate. So all you do then is you pour your cocktail into the vessel that the cream has and then set it aside for up to 24 hours. Basically what it's going to do is and then stir it, I should say, once, and then set it aside for as long as you're planning on doing it. Then all you're really doing is filtering it. You can do that with a nut bag, a coffee filter, all kinds of things. I did it with a coffee filter over a couple of different vessels. I literally basically just used my setup that I use for making coffee every day. My pour over kit worked perfectly for this. So it's great. And boy, oh boy, is it delicious. It does take about an hour to separate it, but it's a great like party summer style drink to make because you can make large batches, clarify it, and show up with a really cool punchy cocktail. So yeah.
Can you describe the differences in flavor that it imparts?
Yeah, so it makes so Jungle Bird is generally a very bitter cocktail, actually, because of the amount of Campari that it uses. And when you fat wash something, it is basically making that whole profile richer by adding fat to it, of course. What that actually imparts, though, in terms of flavor, is it rounds it out with like with an actual like nuttiness, and then also sort of that richness that you get from coconut. It doesn't as much coconut flavor as you would expect. It's more like, I'm sure you've drank in like coconut water, how it almost tastes like a hint of coconut in a lot of ways. That is basically the sort of level to which it imparts, like as though you put a splash of coconut water into a cocktail, not more than that. So it's there, but it's that sort of fatty richness. It makes the cocktail dense, almost like a syrup, which is interesting. Like it adds a lot of density to it. So the one thing that you want to do whenever you serve one of these is you want to either serve it chilled, of course, but you generally want to drop a big cube into it to like allow for dilution because you're not shaking it or stirring it when you're originally making it. So the cube is important for dilution in this case.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah. Jungle Bird is always one that I just personally double or triple the amount of lime juice for, just to cut that bitterness, because there is a ton of bitterness from the Campari. So this would be a fun take on it for me to try, see if do it with the regular ratios and see how much I like that in comparison.
It works great. And again, that richness just rounds it all out. That is the only thing I'm drinking because I made, like I said, 5 of them. Technically, I'm not going to drink them all on the show. I've only had 1.5 so far. But oh my God, diabolically good. I have genuinely, I've not had this much fun with a cocktail in a while that I've made, at the very least. Like, this is, I've had some like pretty inventive like spins and directions, but this is just a texture that I've never created, or like a thing that I've never done. And it's so fucking easy, people. You can like show off in the easiest fashion by just throwing in some fucking coconut into your cocktail and then filtering it out later. Like, that's it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Stupid easy. So yeah, delightful. Really recommend it.
I wonder.
Some good photos on Instagram as well.
Could I do it with my French press?
Yeah, I mean, you could do it with any vessel.
No, but I mean, could I, instead of waiting for it to like filter, like force filter it with the French press, or would that let too much seep through?
It's gonna float, and it is really porous. So you would need to change the.
I need a finer mesh
on the. Yeah, you need a much finer mesh.
Okay.
Yeah, like I was trying to think if maybe you could do it with like, a Chemex bonded coffee filter or something like that, and put it on the bottom and then press it through. Maybe that would work.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's a lot finer. But the big problem is going to be like the side edges. It's just going to jet up a lot of, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Not as dense as coffee beans.
Right.
No literal particulate. But yeah, dude, so good. Even made like one that I only let clarify for like an hour and a half at my parents' place. Filtered it out for them. That was delightful. But the longer you let it go, the more that it clarifies. And again, turns beautifully clear. This all was inspired by Educated Barfly's paper plane that they recently did a coconut wash on, of which is what made me go, you know what? I need to do that. I haven't done that. So.
Well done.
That's it. That's a cocktail.
All right.
Whew. Yeah. And it is a tasty beastie.
Tasty beastie.
All right. With that, luck. So the delays have forced our band of heroes to spend the night in Alcus. In the morning, Jazal wakes relishing the simple pleasures in life like a dried biscuit for breakfast. He seems so happy and jovial about his little pace in life, but Logan assures him that feeling is not going to last, which leads him to see something. At the window spread out before them, Alcus sparkles beautifully in the morning light. I believe that even at some point, I forget if it was in this chapter or last, Longfoot remarks upon Alcus being the most beautiful sight that he's ever seen.
I think it might be here.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it's looking at this vista, but these father-son interactions between Jazal and Logan are some of my favorite inner character interactions in this book so far. It just feels so good. Yeah. And they're small moments. They're little things, but it's Logan in the only like area that he's really competent in, finally has the ability to impart knowledge on a young person, and he is totally seizing the opportunity. Or he's very naturally finding his place in imparting this knowledge. I don't know if he's really doing it intentionally or consciously in that way. Like, he's not thinking like, I need to spread this knowledge. He's more just thinking like, this is my best way to forging a bond with this member of my current team. And like, that's the role that he's fallen into, but it comes across very fatherly.
Yeah, he's in many ways building his fraternity, right? And this is him just sort of extending that hand. Yeah. And it is definitely very fatherly, and I do really appreciate these moments, but it's that way of kind of creating those moments between everyone else. I do love the Longfoot quote here, so I'm going to give it its time in the sun. And this is why I love to travel. At one stroke, in one moment, this whole journey has been made worthwhile. Has there ever been such another sight? How many men living can have gazed upon it? The three of us stand at a window upon history, at a gate into the long-forgotten past. No longer will I dream of fair talons glittering on the sea in the red morning, or all Nab glowing beneath the azure bowl of the heavens in the bright midday, or Ospria proud upon her mountain slopes, lights shining upon the stars in the soft evening. From this day forth, my heart will forever be in Alcus. Truly, the jewel of cities, sublime beyond words and death. Dare one even dream of how she must have looked in life? Who could not have struck with wonder at the magnificence of the sight? Who could not have struck with the awe? A lot of old buildings.
Longfoot feels like the kind of person who, like, every movie he sees is his favorite movie ever.
That's super fair. That's super fair. Yeah. He just appreciates good things, you know? But he is a little too verbose.
He's very verbose. Yeah. But I wonder how much poetry he's waxed towards other vistas that he's found in a similar way.
Yeah.
But maybe he's being genuine. Like, maybe this is genuinely, like, leagues in a way better than anything he's ever seen. But he just doesn't have the personality for me to trust that, given the words.
Yeah, he's a hard one to read, too, in that way. You know, he's not reliable in that sense. Like, yeah, not at all.
He's just so hyperbolic about everything.
Well, and there's the question of, is it hyperbole? You know, in all facets all the time. You know, like which of the statements could even be genuine?
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's almost like his personality has, because we have
Boy Who Cried Wolf.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going with it. His personality is Boy Who Cries Wolf. I don't know if this is how he reacts to other very pretty locations. But I just can't take it on, like, face value that this is exactly how he actually feels.
Yeah, the other side of this is, like, dude, just write it down. Like, take it in, write it down. You didn't have to say it out loud.
Write an atlas.
Yeah, like, where's Brother Longfoot's atlas of the circle of the world and its many beautiful splendors, including Austria, Talons, Ulnab, Alkis, and everywhere in between. Also, I don't really love the Gurkish. These are all the subtitles.
By the way, if you ever find yourself in Alkis, find this rock. It has a great view. And like that's that's the title of the book.
Yeah, exactly. It's like 120 words long.
Volume 2.
Volume 2. You're like, where's volume 1? And he's like, it has yet to be written. I figured I would start on 2 because 2 is better than 1. And I am the best at many things.
I have to go back and look at the other places that I've already been.
One of my great skills, marketing.
Gotta embrace the annual release. Milk that repeat customer base.
The Almanac. Atlas Almanac.
The Longfoot Almanac is going to be a bestseller every year.
Every year for the rest of time. Oh, man. Yeah. What a fun little bit here. But later in the morning, they come upon a square filled with statues with no faces and marred and chiseled messages in them in crazy languages that seem just dismal when they're looked upon. Baez explains that these were once all statues of Juvens, but Glystrad destroyed them and wrote curses over them, all variously, or the demons did. And there's like this undertone of horror that is sort of building as we continue our way through Alkis this whole week. The Magus guides them further on to a massive dome structure, their Imperial Senate of Alkis, which is a place of memory again. You know, we spoke about the bells ringing, but this is where great democracy took place and big motions happened. You know, there's just so many wonderful little things here that are just lovely put. Again, curiosity in anything otherwise. It's great.
It is. There are some lovely little comments from Baez about Glystrad acting like a childish brother towards his brother. That's so, like, it's so fucking funny. It's really funny to be this, like, apocalyptic level demigod on Earth and, like, spray painting your brother's face and writing a swear word on it on his statue.
Yeah,
that's so fucking funny.
Yeah, something so juvenile, especially about Glystrad, and like that just speaks also to like he went to the demons, right, as opposed to, you know, just being able to settle a little bit. It is that sort of petulant child behavior.
Drawing a dick on his back and like chiseling off his dick on the front. I don't know if there were any nude statues of Juvens. I don't know. I don't know if he's got nice flowing robes or if he's like. I imagine he's nude.
Assume
at least in one of them. Like, there's got to be like one of them.
Your chiseling motion is what makes me want to get us closer to video so badly. The little like chisel thing that you did there, I giggled harder at that even than like the thought, just because it was just such a funny like. Oh. It's just,
we need to.
You just imagine like a little demon with wings.
If
just like,
if we ever go to the video, I'm never forgetting my glasses again. I can, man, my eyesight's gotten so bad. I can barely read the notes in front of me right now.
Brutal.
I need my glasses.
I love as well the little reflections here that Baez has in the Senate. Calica urging caution in the Eastern expansion, of course. Baez being 20 years old, watching them here is just something else as well. Like how young he was.
Was he an infant at 20 years old, or was he a 20-year-old looking adult?
I think he was a 20-year-old looking adult.
Right.
I think you just stop at 90, like we were saying earlier. I think that's got to be it. Yeah.
Does he look that old?
He's like 60. No, he's like 60 or 50,
him like
50 or 60, right?
Like a 60-year-old, like.
Yeah.
Young grandfather.
Yeah. He is in that vibe. But yeah, it's just so cool. There's the line, of course, words, my friends, there can be a greater power in words than in all the steel within the circle of the world. And that's just so good. Logan retorts, a blade in your ear still hurts more than a word in it, though, which makes just all laugh.
Yeah. And Baez just bulldozes through it, but it solidifies even more camaraderie between the two of them. Like that's the kind of joke, that's the kind of thing my dad would say to me if we were in a crowd listening to some old man blustering. Like, I absolutely could imagine my dad like saying something under his breath, mostly to make himself laugh, but also to make me laugh. So that resonated with me a little bit.
That makes sense. There is one more great reflection here that I really appreciate from Baez, which happens in the same moment. He's reflecting on Scarpius giving a great exaltation, and his voice rang out and he tries to find the right word in the moment, and he says, "Bah, what does it matter now? There are no certainties left in the world. That was the age of great men doing what was right. This is the age of little men doing what they must. Little men with little dreams walking in giant footsteps. Still, you can see it was a grand building once." And that is such a profoundly, sad and nihilistic statement.
It is, but it's less nihilistic than I think it could have been.
Sure.
Because of the term doing what they must, instead of the term of like doing what they want to, which is the vibe that I get off of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it comes across to me as an age of,
well, you got to be realistic about these things.
Ignorant self-indulgence, as opposed to like it's starting to slip
realism,
into
utilitarianism.
At least in the Union, it's starting to slip now with the war on multiple fronts. Very suddenly, it's starting to slip into doing what they must. But for the most part, it's been just kind of fucking off and doing whatever they want to. Damned be the consequences, because there haven't been any.
Not many, no. Yeah, it does make for an interesting note on top of it all.
But also, Baez has greater scope and greater understanding of the world than we do with our sort of limited focus, with the exception of like the little bit of Gurkle that we've gotten through Pharaoh. We've been very hard focused on the Union.
Yeah.
Whereas
he's
now
the Empire and the old Empire
more broadly.
Yeah. We've gotten some old Empire now, though. I mean, I would say we've
got
a
little bit. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I mean, most of this book from their perspective, right, has been old Empire. So
yeah, but all of their context is Union, and everything that they're thinking about is Union.
Right. Very true. For the most part, outside of when we stopped in that dock city that was burned to the ground, basically. That was just a shithole. Yeah. So as they're exploring, Giselle smells something disgusting and rank. Logan smells it too and very quickly recognizes that it's Shenka. They actually try to take the one down before he can go back and inform anyone else, but he makes it out too quickly, and that forces the group to flee.
Shenka, fucking terrifying. I don't think up until this point we've gotten such a detailed description of the creatures. And they are putrid. I hate them.
Yeah. Yeah. Putrid. I hate them. Yeah, I think some of that is because Logan is used to them, right? So we haven't gotten other perspectives on them. And so now seeing them from Pharaoh and Giselle's perspective, it gives us a more complete picture of what they are. Because to Logan, they're just another Shenka. And, this one's got metal plates on it and this one's that. But now it's like, here's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good use of the limited POV to present details.
I agree.
And now we get our sort of chase moment that, to me, at the very least, is very reminiscent of the fleeing in the mines of Moria in a lot of ways. Matter of fact, this whole thing kind of has some Moria-like implications about it, of times of old and striding too close to the sun and things of that nature.
There's some pretty stark differences, but thematically, yeah, totally. 100% agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like dwarves or anything like that, but like both blasted cities, for hubris in a lot of ways, different degrees of hubris and different rationales there, but also crawling with the story's equivalent of somewhere between goblin, orc, and urukai. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as they continue to ride, more and more Shenka begin emerging from the shadows. Suddenly, Logan is falling and a Shenka spear protruding from his horse's side. About to be overwhelmed by, as again uses his art here, doing his best Gandalf impression, and causes the buildings around them to collapse. As the earth rumbles, Logan and Pharaoh cling to one another. When it ends, they're on the edge of a rent in the earth, centimeters from falling to their very death. You can tell that this was written by a Brit who did this summary. Thank you so much once again for this little chapter summary here. Giselle tries to pull them back safely with his jacket, but as he is reaching this triumphant moment of actually doing something and accomplishing something and being this positive force for the group that he knows that he could be, this hero, really, truly, his sleeve tears and Logan and Pharaoh fall into blackness, leaving our boy sad for sure for losing his friends.
Killing them.
I mean, not
from his perspective.
He didn't kill them, but yeah, he does view it that way.
Yeah. The tension written into the scene is incredible. Absolutely incredible. There's Giselle scrambling to find a way to help them out. All he can find is this jacket. First he tries to step on the slab, and that is not a good idea, and they're all yelling at him for it. No. Gets his jacket. That slowly starts ripping, and you're you're hearing the ripping tension with the eventual failure of the jacket. Giselle commenting, I think it's here. I'm pretty sure this isn't happening like it does in the stories. I'm pretty sure that's right here.
Yeah.
Man, he gets so close. There's tension. And then the release is a failure.
No, he said. That was not how it happened in the stories.
Yeah.
That's such a brutal way to end the chapter.
It's really, really good.
This whole chapter focused on luck and how lucky they have been and otherwise repeated, and for it to be bad fucking luck.
Yeah, that refrain and going from Logan talking about how unlucky he's been to Pharaoh's perspective very suddenly, luck doesn't exist. It's just bad planning.
Right.
To Logan talking about I think it's either this chapter or the next chapter talking again about how unlucky they've been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great.
The reflections on luck throughout this week should not go dismissed, because there is And I would even say, by and large, this book has sort of a focus on luck and chance. And that's a huge, I feel like we've actually talked about it every week, chance and choice. And, especially from Logan's perspective, like 50% of it's luck, inside of a battle, the sort of chance of
Bethod's a very lucky man.
Yeah. By and large, seemingly. So, yeah, that ends that chapter. But this is not the end of our Indiana Jones Temple of Doom falling into the ruins. This is just the very beginning of it as well here. So with that, we move into Beneath the Ruins. This is a wonderful chapter. A lot happens, or not, it's not even that. I don't mean to say it that way. There's a lot that occurs here, but a lot of it is just incredible action. So we'll spend a lot of time focusing on some of those things later. But personally, I feel like I love this chapter for its incredible use of tension, getting us from scene to scene, making them feel like they're sneaking. Some of the incredible stealthy descriptions that Joe does here as they traverse about, by and large. But man, it's a good one. So
it is. It had me pretty well in the dark right away. The beginning of the chapter and like the previous descriptions and like the close calls with the chasm led me into thinking that what we were dealing with was something much more unnatural and magical. Like it felt, with Logan not being able to see right away, it feels like almost magical darkness. Especially on the first read through. Like I was totally like ready for it to be almost slipping into another dimension or another plane of existence of some sort. Yeah.
I forgot to mention this in the last chapter too. I love that there's sort of the reversal here of Logan holding onto Pharaoh and not letting her go with the realistic line. That was also just such a lovely thing.
That was so
her
good
to say that back and for him to hold on because, he remembers the time in which she saved him when he was falling.
Yeah, but she's like basically telling him to let go. She's like, you got to be realistic about this and like, sorry, you got to go. And then he doesn't let go of her.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like, she finds that commendable in him for not doing it in the end, right?
Yeah.
Like it's something that she, especially within this chapter, it's something that she, strikes her particularly.
I think it was perhaps. It was commendable, but I think it was her trying to be comforting in the moment, not thinking he was going to be able to get out of it.
Oh, yeah. She's like, no hard feelings, basically. Is basically what she's saying when she's saying, yeah. I get that, but that's like just that's just a reason for him to double down in a lot of regards. Anyway, of course, ledge stop their fall, a little worse for wear. We have this magical darkness component, like you were saying, that kind of feels out there, almost feels magical. It's just pitch dark, no sun, no light, no nothing here. But eventually that darkness eases and Logan can see again. In that cavern, below them, there are 3 Shanka that are eating around a fire, eating human remains, bodies of the ancient residents of Alcus who have never rotted either. Among all of the things here, there's just bodies to be eaten so long as they exist.
And they're just in like a swimming pool of human bones.
Yep. Yeah. Which is just horrifying as they slide their way around. Pharaoh quickly takes them down with her stunning bow skills. And this is where the whole thing kind of becomes like a horror story in a fantasy. Like this is, I think Logan even says something along the lines of like, didn't imagine hell being so like this low. And they maybe even slipped into another dimension, or maybe they slipped into the other side for a moment. And that's like, oh God.
Yeah. This scene is also where I start to have a sort of change in understanding, a shift in understanding of the Shanka in general. Obviously, from the start, from like page 1 of book 1.
Yeah.
I think. Like, we know they use weapons.
Literally page 1.
There is an amount of intelligence to them, but I always thought of them as closer to zombies or closer to the White Walkers as depicted by the TV show, because I've never read the books. I don't know if that's different, but like more of a mindless type of creature. but we're starting to see a lot more competence and understanding and decision making and rationality to these things, which it's frustratingly complicated, especially when you start adding in the layer of where are we right now and understanding that nothing alive can live here. So like they're dead. They have to be. And like I think Pharaoh or Logan comments on that as well. But there's a decent amount of intelligence, and later on we get them like noticing Logan and Pharaoh and then like making the decision to go to the armory and arming themselves and preparing. It's not just like, oh, there's an enemy, I'm going to go attack them. I don't have my weapon, but I'm still going to go attack them. Like they have intelligence, and it's really fucking with my head a little bit with like how I understood the Schenker to be.
Yeah, it definitely does mess with your head. We also get more description of the Schenker throughout this, and I think it was even brought up by Baez in the previous chapter, or maybe 2 chapters ago, where he's talking about them and saying that like it was the job of the Magi to sort of push them to the edges of the world, and as such, they came back and would like invade. You know, when the river froze over or the sea froze over, they would come down from the north and raid, and that's where they came from to attack Logan and his family. So just getting like all of these different detail in the Schenker really paint them in a much more brutal and intelligent, in addition to bestial in their own way. And then being the creation of Canadius as well speaks to something else, you know, kind of horrific in their necessity in a lot of ways. And each of these fucking sons have left their impressions upon this world, and all of them are black spots. By and large, it's tough to say, except for maybe Juvens. I mean, but like Baez said, almost everything that Juvens did on this world is just gone. Meanwhile, Badesh, do we even know? Like we never talk. Nobody talks about Badesh.
Fuck Badesh.
Fuck Badesh, apparently. Yeah, it's just funny. Oh man, it's so cool. But yeah, I love the Schenker. I like them, especially in comparison to something like orcs or goblins. I think that they fit neither description well. They're, you know, kind of like you were saying, there's something that feels similar to zombies, but at the same time, there is some sort of, I don't know. They're
White Walker really feels like the best comparison. But even those are more mindless, it seems like.
Yeah,
with the exception of like the commanders.
Yeah, right. The actual whites. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, and this chapter only gets scarier as they continue down these piles of bones that they've just been consuming over time and piling up the armory and making this a thing. The hellish forge is light. And I just get the image ripped straight out of Lord of the Rings with like the different forges on fire and all of the, you know, like the Uruk-hai and sort of that thing. But it's just like, it's time to go. It's time to turn on. And so they turn everything on all at once. And it's just this, it's such a visceral image that Joe paints here.
It's insane.
And a frantic one as our characters are trying to escape.
Yeah, totally.
They do make their way into the corner. Orders Pharaoh behind him as he begins to feel the sensation slip out of him as the Bloody Nine lay wastes to the Shanka as well. But I just want to let's talk about the end here, because it's just so good, so intense. The whole thing, you know, just all that.
This fight scene is so wet and raw and brutal.
Crunchy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really... West's was sparse and a flurry. This is still kind of a flurry, but no detail was spared. Like, nothing was left to the imagination. It was just laid bare.
Yeah, and he just goes. Like, it's... there's a line in there when the Bloody Nine takes over that, you know... God, I gotta find it here.
Do you think Logan's the only person with the only Northman with 2 names? Like, named twice? Is the Bloody Nine a separate named man?
Oh, interesting. So 9 fingers in the Bloody Nine?
Yeah.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Right.
Logan 9 fingers? Good question. I don't know. It's tough to say. The Bloody Nine hated everything, but his oldest buried and deepest rooted in his hottest burning hatred, that was for the Shanka. So good.
It was very good.
But that's not the line that I'm looking for here. Yes. The Bloody Nine loomed up behind one, lifting the Maker's sword high. He smiled as he watched the long shadow stretch out across the bald skull, a promise soon to be fulfilled. The long blade whispered its secret, and the Shanka split apart, clean down the middle like a flower opening. Blood sprang warm and comforting, splattering the anvil and the stone in the floor, and the Bloody Nine's face wet with little gifts.
Little gifts.
To me, it's the specific whispered its secret. I just love that idea of like the blade oh god, it's Joe, what a fucking paragraph.
It's so good. All of it's so fucking good.
Yeah. And there is a brutal poeticism to the way that he just goes through them all, getting mad, of course, as he sees the different arrows fly out, and he's considering Pharaoh, and then all of a sudden there's that confrontation that happens before he manages to come back to that's kind of an interesting spin here. So anything else on this chapter?
So in general, towards the end, Pharaoh is like helping. Obviously, like she's competent and she's killing Shankar too. But the Bloody Nine takes that as a personal affront. And I'm curious about just the way this all works. Like, obviously, Logan doesn't remember what's going on here, but does the Bloody Nine remember what happens during these battles? And, like, importantly, will he remember that he really wants to kill Pharaoh next time he comes out?
Yeah.
My guess is no. Like, I'm leaning towards the Bloody Nine not being an actual separate entity. It's almost like it is just like I'm seeing red fugue state for Logan. And like, he has a rationality about what's going on in the moment, but there's no continuity between, like, it's not a separate personality. Separate person. And
the way that it's described, like I read in the little quote that we just had a little bit ago, it also makes it feel as though it is without continuity, but with instinct based on the past, right? Like there's
remember that learning from the past. Yeah. Okay.
But I don't think it's like memory strictly.
Muscle memory more than anything.
Yeah. And he still like has emotions and other things like that. It's more than that, but it's definitely a different part of him. It feels like.
Yeah.
The Bloody Nine. Indeed. All right. With that, we get to our final chapter of the week. No good for each other. After he's come back to himself here, Pharaoh gives Logan no time to rest. She's found an underground river, leads him down to the channel. They're able to find their way out, by and large, not out immediately, but able to find themselves a semblance and sense of peace. He asks her what he did back there, and she tells him that he got them through, and kind of repeats that a couple of times, kind of giving him an excuse and a rationale for what happened. Eventually, they manage to emerge through an iron gate outside the city and make it. Logan wants to stop in that moment, but Pharaoh pushes on. Only when night falls and they're far out of the city are they actually allowed to like stop in a ruin. Logan offers Pharaoh his coat because he can hear her teeth chattering in the dark. She's clearly frozen with cold from the river helping, and just the way the night is. She reluctantly accepts his coat and takes it with his thanks. And she like very kind of bluntly asks if he wants to fuck, saying, "You want to fuck?"
I don't think I should have been surprised, but it still caught me off guard that such a jarring and blunt woman as Pharaoh would have such a jarring and blunt way of propositioning sex.
Yeah. And sort of the way that conversation goes is also interesting because she replies, "You're not saying no, or you are saying yes," which is,
I mean, that's
like
valid.
asking
That's
to
a
be
valid
affirmative
thing.
Yeah, I know. But that's like more, that's interestingly inquisitive in a way that Pharaoh isn't often in conversation. Like,
yeah, they're both.
she's usually just
very
black
much,
and white.
Yeah, they're both very much laid bare here. They're both out of their element, and makes for such a great.
How do you want to get it done? You know.
Oh man.
It's just all so like what I really I just want to hear what you appreciate about this sort of like the sort of sex that they have, period, or like the way that this all goes down. Like what do you appreciate about the way that this was written, composed, etc.? Like where's your brain?
So, like I mentioned earlier, all I did was listen this week.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that there's some great like just visualizations of it on the page, but Stephen Pacey, this is the performance of a lifetime for him. Like, it's so fucking well done.
Yeah.
Pacey puts on a better performance than Logan does.
I love the line, just to get you into this here. They started pulling at each other's clothes together as if someone had given the signal for the charge and they were keen to get it over with. And then in the most realistic way, this whole scene is just a struggle front to back, like top to bottom. It's, you know, it's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
They're just such great comments that like Logan saying, "You don't have to pull me up by it. Like you don't have to lift me by it," or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of it's so them and so good and so awkward. They recover. They fumble and recover, and then fumble again.
Yeah. Just the God, Pete. I know, PJ, you didn't read it here, and I've got it on the Kindle, and I just have to share it with you just so you can see what it looks like on page, because it is so funny looking on the page. It's just like, what? You're joking. Like, again, Pacey kills it. But the way that it's presented
this
is
does not come across as cleanly as Pacey's does. Like, Pacey brings this way more to life than this is presented.
Well, of course he brings it to life.
No, I mean,
what's
just
interesting,
like, I wouldn't read it in the same way
like
that
he adds texture.
He adds so much depth.
Yeah. But what I love about this on the page by comparison to the, I like them both for different reasons. Like you said, Stephen Pacey performance of a lifetime. You're not wrong. Also, I think this is our first like proper sex scene in any book, right?
I think it might.
Oh no. Greenwood Saga.
Hilo.
Greenwood Saga.
Yeah.
A couple in there. But first, just the two of us talking about it at the very least, which is its own thing. But the reason that I really like it on the page is because it is so reductive and like it is so just reduced down to the bare bones, and you can imagine exactly how this is going. Like it isn't performed well, it isn't insightful, but like, you know that this is not a good time for anyone as their like grunting is going on, and then like, well, I was just getting started. I did say it'd been a long time, must have been years, and like just this like whole thing of it's so good. Yeah.
His wilting cock.
Yeah. Smeared. She slid off his wilting cock, wiped herself with one hand, and smeared it angrily on the wall. Like,
that's so good.
Yeah. Right. So that was an embarrassment and no mistake. And just like,
wiped it on the hotel curtains.
Jesus. That's somehow darker, actually, than our medieval fantasy. Oh, cow. Okay. All right. Well, I love it. It's so funny.
I do too.
It's so good. Yeah. As a follow-up question, do you think they'll ever do it again?
I think right now they're in the midst of a communication error. We haven't gotten there yet.
Communication error. Yeah.
Yeah. They blundered in their the way that they spoke to each other the next morning, and the Seinfeld problem. If they just had cell phones, maybe things would be better. Or Friends. I think it's Friends that like everything would like Friends wouldn't be a show if they all had cell phones.
Right. Yeah.
If Pharaoh just knew the word sorry in any other language, they'd be pretty fine right now.
Oh man. I mean, apparently, like you mentioned, it seems like with the way that it ends, they do take another go at it afterward. Maybe it is kind of left ambiguously, I believe. I don't think
they do.
answer that, right?
I mean,
oh yeah,
they do, and then they go to bed, and then they wake up, and that's where like the tension is still there, and the communication problem is what like exasperates all of their like insecurities about what happened the night before. But I think they did. I think they did round 2.
Yeah, it seems as though that is, and like her regret in the morning, I think, is also just kind of like painful.
The elbows
in a lot
in
of
the
different
fucking
ways.
mouth or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing. Something that I thought was just her. Like, so this is the second time it's come up now, and she talks about how anytime she sleeps, something bad happens. And I had written off her comment earlier, like I think it's this book, but at the beginning of this book, saying
where she said she doesn't sleep much.
She doesn't sleep at all. She doesn't sleep at all, is what she claimed. So she could take watch. So she like, and the assumption was that like that was just a claim, so she could abscond in the night without anybody noticing and nobody chasing. But now I'm starting to think that like, she actually hasn't been sleeping through any of this time.
Yeah. Or like very little. But yeah.
Like it wasn't a lot. It wasn't a fabrication for her to just get away. Like that's actually true.
Right. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, she is devil-blooded. There's all kinds of crazy things that seem to go with that.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, after that, we flip over to the Saturnine rock, where Giselle waits with Baez, Kwai, and Longfoot. He, meaning Longfoot, finds it very unlikely that Pharaoh and Logan survived, an opinion shared by everyone but Baez, of whom I don't know that he doesn't share it so much as he like is just obstinately believing that they did.
He can't just agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, because he needs as long as it takes, like however long it takes them, they're the crucial parts that they're missing. So
this plan is decades in the making.
Yeah,
for Baez,
right?
Dozens and dozens of years. Earlier in this section, Baez mentions when Pharaoh asks about the seed. He mentions that she very well may be the only person on the planet that has the unique ability that he needs to carry the seed.
Yeah, maybe the only one left.
And spirit talkers, I don't think are very common either.
No, it's said to be a dying thing. That was another thing.
The spirits themselves are
in the last book. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, of course, he's going to wait him out. Like, there's no way he's going to give in to the idea of like, oh no, let's write him off as dead and keep going, I guess. But they can't because they're the two most critical like components. I don't know. I wonder still, like there's obstinance and there's tenacity and hope that Baez could have. But I do wonder if there's any sort of innate feeling of their like life force or something, like if he somehow can know whether or not they've died yet.
If there's any way that he could know, I would assume that it's just time, right?
Well, I mean, just if he has a feeling, if he can feel whether or not they've died, if there's some sort of connection that he's anchored himself to.
Oh yeah, great question. Who knows?
Yeah.
Baez is capable of all kinds of things with high art.
Right.
How could we know?
That's my point.
Yeah, I think by and large, though, he doesn't, at the very least. I love that Kwai spots them as well first, like it's that sort of long eye paying attention. And, when they finally make it up there, of course, it's so funny to me that they are like, they're barking at each other so mad. What happened? And Giselle is just asking an honest question of how they survived. And they're thinking that he's talking about them fucking. Like both of them are like, nothing happened. Nothing at all. And like, it's just all about.
and they all assume like, oh shit, they saw some shit. Like they don't want to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Master Kwai, with the gift for understatement too, with the horses pulled it out, like how'd they make it out? Well, the horses pulled the cart. Like it's just also undercutting and funny. Good. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh man. But Baez puts them back on the task with a couple of horses mostly dead after the Shenka attack. Logan must ride on the cart beside Baez. Rather than ride with Logan, Pharaoh elects to walk, and not all is left very rosy with our various band of heroes. How do you feel about this sort of end this week, this chapter? Any other thoughts?
There's something weird that like crossed my mind here. Mm-hmm. And it obviously ends in a very tense way, but I feel like we've covered it pretty well because the tensions between Logan and Pharaoh. And I think that will become resolved. Like I really do. And I think they'll find their way into each other's beds again. I think. But thinking about this traveling crew and the other Northmen, the named men with West, if they ever become reunited again, it doesn't feel like it feels like Logan has changed enough that he wouldn't fit in so well with them anymore. And I can't quite articulate why I feel that way, but he just feels so much more, or so much less rough than they do. And I don't know if they would follow him in the same way, and I don't know if he would feel the desire to lead them in the same way.
Yeah, he's consistently cited that he's trying to feel like a better person. I think that's one of the other things here on the whole. He's trying to be a better person. That was definitely a big thing for him in the first novel. As he reflects, now he's just trying to survive, still alive, stay alive. But yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Do you think he's abandoned his "you can never have too many knives" refrain because of the drowning comment, the heavy iron? Yeah.
That she makes a comment on.
Yeah.
I think I loved that reflection in that moment as it got brought up. And then, he thinks about it for a second and then he's like, nah. No, he loads it back in.
Oh, I thought he was picking it up and then she made the comment and he put it back down where he was picking it up from.
So he picks it up, considers, and then puts it back in his clothes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I took
but it did shake him
from
a little bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It did shake him. Returned it to its sheath. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Fun week. Anything else? Any other notes, comments, thoughts? Brainiac moments? Big brain?
Nothing. I didn't make any bets this week, did I? Or did I make one?
No, I mean, you didn't.
I bet. All right. I will drink for every subsequent time from now on that it's not quite a bet because I think it'll happen. But every time Logan and Pharaoh fuck, I'll take a drink going forward.
Okay. Dealio. Fair enough. That's, and I will drink with you because who will drink alone? We will cheers to their belt fellows. As what's interesting is that she cites her belt. No, it's belt, but she cites her belt, right? Like as being like the problem. So belt fellows versus bedfellows. So yeah. All right, cool. All right. Well, don't have anything immediate to pay off here, of course, but we do get into what we're going to be reading next week. PJ, we are going to be reading The Hero's Welcome Through Questions in our penultimate episode before they're hanged. We're getting close to the end now.
Going all the way back to one of the first chapters of the first book. Reading through questions.
Questions, once again. You know it's a Glockta chapter. Awesome. All right. With that, thank you so much, of course, to Tim and Andrew for everything that you do for the show, including, obviously, like we've said many times, keeping the show's lights on, keeping us produced, keeping us sounding pretty, and helping out with everything Atomic Byline. We appreciate the both of you endlessly. If you would like to support us and support them, please check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/wordswhiskey. There you can get access for $5 a month to our Patreon Discord and our Devil's Cuts, of which we're currently testing something out where we're basically doing a season of a TV show one episode at a time as like a fun little 20-minute thing that we do either, generally right before an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little
gets us warmed up for the show, and also lets us talk about a TV show that we're passionate about. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So far, we're on Dark Matter. Patrons are voting on the next show coming this summer, likely either like House of Dragon or Shogun, depending. So Shogun, we will eventually do in some fashion, even if it's just like a single episode talk. So
yeah, one of the two.
Yeah. We've got a lot of fun things coming up as well. We have another interview with Rob Hart for his new book, Assassins Anonymous. It'll be great. We've got an episode that we're going to put out on Iron Widow that was sponsored by a patron that should be coming out. And we also have a follow-up with Has Been Hotel Season 1. So lots of crazy fun stuff coming down the pipeline as both bonus episodes and early stuff for patrons and whatnot. Thanks to everyone of whom contributed there as well.
Perfect. If you would like to follow us on social media, you can follow us at Words Whiskey Pod on pretty much everything. You can email us at wordsandwhiskeyshow@gmail.com. I had to think about that for a second. And you can leave us a voicemail at 910-408-2534. Leave us a voicemail. We'll play it on the show, and we will answer the question or respond to the comments, whatever it might be. If you just sling insults at us, we probably won't play it. But if it's meaningful and relevant and useful and good, yeah, we'll play it on the show. It'll be good.
Yeah, we do that from time to time. But yeah, please feel free to give us a call in on the number. Beyond that, make sure that you leave us a review, a 5-star review on your preferred platform of choice, be it Google Podcasts, RIP Google Podcasts actually today. Goodbye forever. So sorry.
I didn't know about that.
Formally discontinued. It was discontinued like a year ago technically, but now it's like all gone entirely, forever and ever. Goodbye. But yeah. Yep. But if you don't leave us a 5-star review, we will throw you into the pits of Alcus, by which you will be consumed slowly, where you will be not allowed to rot and you will die there among them.
All right.
Where you belong. Where you belong. It's where you belong.
We'll pick your bones out after the Shanker eat you.
Yeah, probably true. Just for you. All right. With that,
on that happy note,
we will see you next week.
Bye.